All right, so let's get started with the rice. We are going to start with a half of a red bell pepper. You want to go ahead and do some small little dices on that. Guys, I'm still learning. I'm not a chef, so you might see me cutting in some ways that might make you cringe. My husband says I need to do the cuff with the knife, but he's going to have to teach me that. So for now, I'm going to cut the way I've been cutting for years. So also go with a half of a green bell pepper. Just try to get all of the pieces as uniform as possible. That way it's better when you're ready to eat. You don't want chunks of, big chunk of pepper here and a small chunk of pepper there. It might change the taste, but try to get them as uniform as possible. Once you're done with that, we're going to go with my favorite. Yes, my celery. Celery just makes food taste good. If you don't put celery in your food, you're missing out. I'm telling you, it just enhances everything. So that's about 3/4 of a stalk of celery. I cut it into 4 different pieces, and then I went in and I just chopped them. I'm trying to keep everything the same size, the peppers, the celery, and then I'm going to do some onion in a few. Here I did want a little bit of spice, so I added some fresh jalapeno without the seeds. And try to mince that as fine as possible. I just wanted a little bit of heat. I didn't want it to be really strong, so that's why I only used a little bit. And I went in and I basically tried to mince it so that it's more of a flavor component instead of just like a chunky ingredient that you can bite on. Fly away together. Can't help it with your body. Next, I chopped up a medium onion. I only used about half of the onion, but you want to try to keep the pieces as uniform as possible, keeping them the same size as the other vegetables if you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it just helps to balance the flavors if everything is uniform. All right, and then you want to add a little bit of oil to a pan. I used some avocado oil because that's what I had. You can also use olive oil if you want. Once I added my vegetables to the pot, I also added 2 large garlic cloves. And then I just sauteed them a little bit before I got the hamburger in, just to kind of get everything released and sweating up a bit. And then I added 1 pound of ground beef to the mix. Call on you, money just fall on you. Another thing I won't do. Ooh yeah, I just wanna call on you. Let me do it all for you. Can't nobody ball on you. Ooh yeah, she the girl in my vision. And then once the meat was pretty well combined, I went and added some seasoning. I added some garlic powder, some black pepper, a little dash of some crushed red pepper. Of course, y'all know I love my Tony Chachere. A little bit of that Tony Chachere Creole Seasoning, and just give that a good mix. Once that is pretty much done, I drained it, and then I added 2.5 cups of water. And to that, I added a box of Zatarain's Dirty Rice Mix. Yes, I did use a box. I cheated a little bit. Guys, I have a 3-month-old at home, so the fact that I even have time to cook is still a miracle at this point. So I do take any shortcut that I need. And if you cook good food all the time, your family is not going to notice, or whoever you're cooking it for is not going to notice. They're not going to ask you if it's boxed rice or not. So use that Zatarain and let's get it together. All right. Once you're basically going to follow the instructions from this point on and mix the little rice mix that come together with their seasoning packet. I am going to add some additional seasoning later on, but this still just helps to start to develop the flavors early on. And then once everything starts to boil a bit, you are going to lower your temperature and let it simmer and cover it up. And now we're going to get started with our blackened seasoning for our fish. For that, you're going to need 2 tablespoons of paprika, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of thyme. I am going to list all of the ingredients in the description box, so don't worry about trying to listen to everything I'm saying right now. I'm just going over what seasons you're seeing at the time. Once you get that done, we're going to go in with 1 teaspoon of black pepper. Now, you see me dip it in there twice, but for whatever reason, I lost my teaspoon measurement, so I just have to use my half teaspoon and just double it up. That was 1 teaspoon of basil, 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. You're also going to add 1 teaspoon of oregano. You're going to get 1 teaspoon of Old Bay. And then this is some different Creole seasoning. Do not tell Tony Statuary, but this is 1 teaspoon of just some other Creole seasoning that I had in my cabinet. And then you want to do a teaspoon of the salt. I did a half, but I think a teaspoon would be better. And then also 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. Go ahead and give that a good mix. I went and put it in a Ziploc bag just to make it easier and to help to make sure that the spices were nice and well blended. And also it keeps it for storage. So whatever you don't use, you'll just have some left over for the next time. But that is how it should look. By this time, the rice should pretty much be done. This is usually when I will kind of taste it and see where we are flavor-wise. I mean, of course, the vegetables are going to give it its own additional flavor. But I've been kind of doing this little cheat. Look at that, though. It does look pretty good. It's coming together. I've been doing this little cheat for a while, so I know I typically add a few things. So I added some onion powder, some garlic powder. I went in with some paprika just to help balance the color and to give it just a tiny little hint of sweetness. Even though paprika doesn't have a strong flavor, it does give it a mild sweetness. But yeah, that was it. Stirred it up, flattened it out, and let it finish cooking until the water was nice and dissolved. And now I can get started preparing my fish. So I'm using some catfish fillets. I am just brushing a little bit of that avocado oil onto each side. And then you are going to liberally season each side. Don't be afraid to use that seasoning. Get it in there. It is not going to be over seasoned, I'm telling you. Get it nice and coated. This is part of the blackening and where that blackened catfish come from. So get it nice and well coated and seasoned. And then you're going to do the same thing to both sides. A little olive oil, your blackened seasoning, and then we're going to sear it in our pan. Now, I am going to be using a cast iron skillet. If you guys don't have a cast iron skillet, you really should invest into one. It really just helps with flavoring. It just really does something magical to the food. I don't know what it is, but definitely get you a cast iron skillet. But once that meat is nice and seasoned, this is what it should look like. And then we are going to check on our rice. That is nice and done, and we can get that out the way and focus on our fish. And you want to make sure you cook that rice first. Make sure it's done, because once the fish is done, you don't want your fish sitting around waiting on the rice. All right, so now with your fish, like I said, we're going to use our cast iron skillet. I did let it heat up first. I drizzled some oil in the pan, and then I laid it down with the rich side down first instead of the flat side, because I want the side that I am going to use for my presentation, I want that part to be cooked first. So once I flip it, I don't have to flip it again, and then everything will be able to just plate. And then I added some pieces of butter to help develop a little sauce. And then after about 2 minutes, you want to carefully flip your fillets.
I just want to call on you. Let me do it all for you. Can't nobody ball on you. Ooh, yeah.
And while that was going, I went ahead and checked on my rice. It's done, so I gave it a nice little fluff. And I just let that sit and continue to just kind of cool down and let the liquid absorb a little bit more while the fish was cooking.
You got too much going on in that mind, let me help you.
And then when it was pretty much done, I just went and tilted my pan and I just started taking some of that liquid and just basting my fish with it. That's just that butter, still a little bit of that oil and some of that seasoning that came down, but that fish, of course, it looks really good. And then to have a little vegetable, I added some green beans. They have these little ready-to-go green beans here at the grocery store. So I just did a quick little sear on those. So I added some olive oil to my pan. To that pan, I just kind of rough chopped some onions, nothing special, just maybe, you know, just a handful of some onions. And then I added also some sliced garlic. I think I put like 1 or 2 cloves. And I just let that go a little bit before I added my green beans.
Yeah. Oh, ooh, yeah. I'm out of, yeah. Turn up for the night. Real thing, she's no average girl. Too fine, oh, she might. She's so damn fine. I just wanna call on.
I didn't add the whole bag. I added about 3/4 of the bag. And then to that, I went ahead and seasoned it with some kosher salt, some chicken base or chicken bouillon. That chicken bouillon just kind of gives it a flavor of if you may have cooked it with some smoked meat or something. It just kind of helps you eliminate that step. So you want to season to taste with that. I also added some garlic powder and some coarse ground black pepper. And then I just went ahead and sauteed it up a little bit. And I'm going to cover it just so that the green beans can steam and get cooked down a bit.
Everywhere we go, they be all right. Yeah. Can't help it with your body. Just wanna make you.
After about 5 minutes or so, I went in and uncovered my beans. I added a little bit of butter. That is also going to help kind of make a little, I guess you could say a little sauce. It just kind of helps to release the little drippings on the bottom of the pan and help them to coat the beans. But once I added my butter, I just went ahead and tossed them together. And then I added a couple of dashes of some red wine vinegar. You don't have to add red wine vinegar, but it does give it a nice little tangy taste to them. But add your red wine vinegar right towards the end. I sauteed them maybe 2 or 3 more minutes, and then I just cut them off, and they were done. And I was ready to get started in making our plate.
Let me help you. Yeah. Let me give you.
And then once I had everything plated the way that I liked, I went and took that pan that we cooked the fish in and took a little bit more of that sauce, that buttery sauce and Creole sauce that was left, put it over my fish, a little bit over my rice, and then I chopped some green onions. It does make the rice taste good and also looks really nice on the plate. I also put my lemon in the pan just a little bit to get it a little seared just so it can get nice and juicy. But this is my final product, guys. When I tell you I tasted this food and thought I was at Papa Dough, I had to look around, pinch myself like, am I at Papa Dough? Where did this come from? All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching again.